Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show. Here again to continue promoting and featuring some of the world leaders, organizations, and personalities fostering and pushing the boundaries of our world. And we are in a very exciting and complex world that technology is making a lot of changes, a lot of, I would say, lifestyle giant changes and mutations in a lot of ways. But more than anything, we have as well right now to look at the way we interact as society, the way you look at even the interaction between our physical being, our digital self, and as well how we can actually keep our well-being. And of course, for that, one of the things that I've been bringing more and more, and that will be bringing, is featuring the sports and the importance of sports and physical activities in our lives. So today I'm quite excited to feature in our podcast series for the first time one of the biggest global personalities in sports and biggest organizations, the World Games, and especially his CEO, Joachim, that has been leading the organization for a lot of time. So Joachim Gossow is the CEO of the International Sports Broadcasting, and he leads an event that I would say probably the second biggest in terms of multi-sports in the world, and as well one event that is quite special because it looks at sports in a very different approach. So Joaquin is a personality and a prominent figure in the sports organizations and management. Born in Germany, he assumed the role of the Chief Executive Officer of the International World Games Association, IWGA, in July 2010, and previously he served in the same organization as a sports director since 2005. And he brought a huge wealth of experience to this position, and he's been a very stable and a very powerful, but as well sustainable personality that has been bringing a lot of, I would say, performance and capacity to one of the biggest sports, multi-sports event in the world. Joachim Gossow's journey into sports administration began with over 2 decades early when he dedicated over 2 decades in the sports management in the city of Duisburg. He's been transitioned from being an active handball player and coach in the first league to taking on leadership sports in sports major organizations in German and international. His role has been pivotal in terms of making the success of the World Games since 2005 in Duisburg, where he served as the sports director for the Organizing Committee. And his focus and management has been positive and focused as well in position and creating a global footprint and as well a precision of organization that is unique in the world. As well, for people that know less, of course, we're going to be talking about that. The World Games represents probably the second multi-sports international event in the world, and it features sports and disciplines not contested in the Olympic Games, governed by the International World Games Association under the patronage of the International Olympic Committee. This global platform of sports takes place every 4 years, strategically scheduled 1 year after the Summer Olympic Games, spanning 11 days. The official program typically encompasses between 25 to 34 sports with participation from around 100 countries that total approximately 3,500 athletes per edition. And distinguished by its unique characteristic, the World Games stand apart from the multi-sports events, notably the Olympic Games, as host cities are not obligated to construct new venues. And the competitors earn their spots through selection by the respective international federations governing their sports, deviating from the national Olympic committees or national governing bodies' usual selecting processes. So the World Games is definitely a fantastic event, and we're going to be talking about this. I just want to start with a quote that I think it's important for us, is that in terms of sports, is all about the way we actually can get this and make sure that the sports are a way to empower us and believe in the impossible because no one else does. Quote from Florence Griffith Joyner. So welcome to our series, Joachim. It's an honor to have you here.
Hello, also from my side. Thank you for your nice introduction and also for all the facts. Kind to be reminded on that, how long I work already for this organization.
No, it's amazing what you guys have been doing, and I would say that this is definitely one of the most exciting sports events in the world. But let's start by you. So, Joaquin, from Germany to Switzerland, you've been dedicating your life to sports and to professional sports and to as well managing organizational sports. And I know that is not an easy task because it comprehends managing a lot of people, managing a lot of physical management, different things. So tell us a bit about your background, your education, and how do you end up in the position you are now?
My life was always full of sports, and I'm very thankful and grateful for this, having had the opportunity till today. The competition itself, yes, starts not only on a field of play, which I learned as also a professional player in what I always say in my first life, but it is also already in the organization. And yeah, there are a lot of tasks and duties that you have to fulfill as well as an athlete to be, at the end of the day, successful, not only for yourself, but for the organization and for the athletes that you have to take care of. This is something that I learned very early in my life, as I just mentioned, being a professional player and later on also a professional coach, that you lean on a lot of people, but definitely on those who are working in the background and to manage all these small items that make the success of the event, of the match, of the player's success, at least. Therefore, having learned over several years also in our organization in different positions was something very valuable for myself, for my life, but also for my business life with a lot of partners we are working together in the meantime with for the success of the World Games event itself. And I'm also in the position to say what we sometimes miss in sports, that continuity, giving people a chance to improve, is something very also important for me and one of my biggest learnings in the past years. So what does it mean? I want to work together with people for the success of our athletes that are also very dedicated to this project, the World Games, but also learn by working for a long time together. And we have some very good partners on site that stabilized and improved our event over the last, I would like to say, 20 years mainly. So this is my task, just bringing things together like a coach outside of the field in the background, and this is fun.
And that's very special. I think that's the more important thing we have is constructing and putting people together, which is a very big task. So Joaquin, from your experience, first as a sports personality and then organizing one of the biggest sports events in the world. And as you mentioned, and one of the things is that as in terms of your vision for the International World Games Association, you mentioned that the organization stands as a beacon of professionalism and confidence in addressing the evolving landscape of global sports. So for people listening to us, could you first of all introduce what are the World Games from your side as the CEO and as well the leader for almost more than 2 decades now, and a bit of information about, for people that don't know so much, how impactful the games are, what they stand for, how they work. You know, the next ones are going to be in China, giving a bit of context and a bit of the past, present, and potential future.
Let me start with that. For me, the World Games are still the most interesting event, a multi-sports event worldwide and for decades. The reason for this is that we can lean back on sports of 39 member federations that are under our umbrella, member of our association, and they have such good sports that are unfortunately not so in the focus like Olympic sports, because they are non-Olympic sports. And I think this is not fair, as we always talk about fairness in sports. These sports or these athletes are really as dedicated as Olympic athletes, and show their sports, show their performances on the top level when it comes to their performances at the World Games. What we do is really to try to educate ORFs to get better into also the focus of the media, and therefore I'm very thankful to have the opportunity talking to you about the World Games today too, because here we have to catch up and really show to the world how good these sports are. We have sports in water, in the air. We have sports on the ground, indoor, outdoor. We have a mixture, I would like to say, that has a bigger variety as other multi-sports event, but always, and I think this is also one of the main points, we have the top athletes starting in all these disciplines, and we do not just jungle around. When it comes to the World Games, we have short and sweet performances for the audience on site, for the media. We have the so-called top athletes, top teams, top 8 always at start. We do not have long preliminaries. We just come more or less to the finals. And this is, I think, one of the most exciting points that one of the athletes just once mentioned to me. To start at the World Games is far harder for me than to start at the World Championships, because you directly have to get to the point. You have to directly concentrate, because your first opponent can be the last opponent. And I think this makes the games also very interesting for the athletes, for the participants. What we do on the other side is also to have a very fair play with the host cities when it comes to hold these games and what they have to provide for these athletes. You just mentioned at the very beginning, we do not ask for new venues, we do not ask for new buildings, we do not ask for something that is left at the end, what we call so a white elephant. Whenever we leave a city, I can let you know personally, I can always go back everywhere, and we have very good relationships to these cities, because we don't left them with these infrastructure which can't be used anymore or is not in use anymore. And on the other hand, also looking on financing these games, I think we are in a very fair position to do that together with the host city, because we do not like losers on no side. And this is something we directly start at the very beginning when organizing these events, also with the host city. The host city is also a partner for us to be successful at the end of the day with this project.
And that's a very, very big thing. So before we go to that, because I have a couple of questions on that. So when you look at the World Games, you have, so I will just go through this, but I would like for you to elaborate. So you have artistic and dance sports, which is quite unique. You have ball sports, you have martial arts, and you have precision sports, strength sports, trend sports, which is quite interesting as well, and I would like to touch that. And so tell us a bit about this, and then I want to touch the other part of the cities. But this is quite important, the variety and wealth of sports and modalities.
You just named it. One of the biggest challenges of a multi-sports event is at the end of the day, really, that spectators have an overview about all the sports that you just have on the program, at least that you have at hand. And because you have to know that not all our sports or the 39 member federations will be at the end of the day at the games, because bringing 39 sports would be impossible within 11 days. Or you have to break it down in a way that it doesn't make sense anymore to have really high quality performances. So we tried around 20 years ago to cluster these sports to make it a little bit more understandable for the audience before you go to these games or before you just want to watch these games. We have these 6 clusters, you named it, the board sport, martial arts, artistic dance sports, trend sports, and so on. That should help to organize already or give a help to organize the spectators for the World Games. Behind that, there are these sports that we select to participate in the games, and you have to know that our member federations have to apply to attend the upcoming games every time. There's no automatic participation. Because we want that they improve and that they improve their sports disciplines that were held once at the games, and that with that they would like to come back to the next games. We discussed with them improvements. So it was just a long time ago that we already broke down all sessions of our sports on site, because we got aware spectators do not sit anymore for 1.5, 2 hours to watch whatever hard. Only a few sports can manage that, but even then you see it's more an event. And that is what we tried to already start with a long time ago, and also have by that once again the opportunity to use the top athletes, the top 8, which I mentioned a minute before, and also to have it very interesting for the media with short sessions that you can sell to the spectators on which device ever worldwide.
So one of the things that is quite exciting is that you have trend sports. So can you tell us about that? Because it's actually very cool. And I've been learning about some of these sports, both from family, but others are really very cutting edge. And I think they are really very interesting for people listening from us all over the world that don't know about it. So could you elaborate a bit on these trend sports?
In sports, more disciplines, new disciplines just showed, and also gathered very quickly a great audience. So by that we have, for example, air sports with parachuting. And when you have ever an idea of air sports and you think, okay, it's only with planes in the air, and yes, there's also some nice disciplines they can have. But the parachuters especially are one thing that you, as a spectator, have to see. When people fall down the air with more than 180 kilometers and have to touch with the feet a pond before they just aim either in length, in speed, or in a kind of slalom. It's amazing what these athletes can do and excite the audience. And on the other hand, we have also sports like that showed up as a transport flying disc, a sport that came up by young students, and which over the past, I would like to say 15 years, had a huge development with ultimate team sports played by by both genders, and without referees, but clearly understood also for the audience what happens if the disc has to go to one or to the other side, or how we aim to be successful. A lot of sports are covered under that, and we try, or we have created this section even to be flexible, also to take the really upcoming sports into that. You have also disc golf. We have other sports in that especially looking on breaking, from which you usually put into the section of dance sports, but it is a special disciplines in within that. And the success already led them also to the Olympic Games, as you may know. So there's also, let's say, a laughing and a crying eye on my side, that we build up sports, and obviously they are so good that they are also considered by the IOC to be on the program at the Olympic Games.
So putting all this together, and this actually congratulations on that, because in the end of the day, for people listening to us, you guys are part of the Olympic Committee and you are part of a lot of other sports organizations. So let's look at, and my podcast, of course, is touching a lot of business and technology. So in the end of the day, this is a big organization. It's one of the biggest in their endeavors. Like you said, it comprehends the organization of 39 federations of sports, 100 countries, 3,500 sports, and an entire city, and the global media attention that this engages. Like you mentioned, air sports is quite spectacular. Just from a visual perspective is amazing, and a lot of other things. Yeah, it's amazing. So tell us a bit about, like you mentioned, one of the differentiators you have is that you you focus on the cities and you do in a sustainable environment that is not about creating white elephants. And I like that, because we need more sustainability, more than just big things. And innovation, a lot of things on innovation is about how we put all these innovation on sports in an event and different parts. But tell us, how do you approach the sustainability with the cities that host the games, with your own organization, because that's a massive task economically, management, personalities, people, like you said, coaching, and a lot of different areas.
It's once again, when you start discussing this project with the host city, you have to look deeply into this city. What can be provided by it? I mentioned already that our program is not fixed. The IFs have to apply for the upcoming games with their best program that they can provide to us. And when they apply, at the same time, we look into the host city if these sports can take place there without building new facilities, new venues. And that is something we have to check with the host city and say, okay, yeah, we have on the one hand all these applications, and on the other hand, we have these venues, and how we can bring that together and do not create additional costs or ask for new venues or ask for new facilities over there that at the end of the day would be only used for the occasion of our games. Because let's say half of the sports are always very well known where you go on that globe, and half of the sports are unknown. And for the unknown sports, you usually do not have always these venues at hand. So we have to select carefully together with the IFs and the host city already, that we do not build up a program that requires more costs to build venues and so on. On the other hand, what you just said is also one of our organizational challenges, to see that we keep those venues as close as possible together to avoid, for example, costs for transportation. And this is also learnings of all the games that were hosted in the past, to manage the accommodation situation and the sports situation, sports venue situation, in a way that we can avoid these costs, which are also, on the other hand, time consuming for the athletes and this disadvantage. So our principle is to have venues and accommodation at the longest away, 45 minutes driving time at peak time. Seems quite simple, seems quite, let's say, logical, but sometimes hard to get. We have had different sizes of cities with different traffic situations and so on. So you can't say, okay, what we just have gained as an experience in one city at one place, we just can put one-on-one to the other city. No, it's always special. And this requires some time in the preparation. And one of our principles in the organization is that we invest time before we talk about handing over an event to the host city. But when we hand it over, we already know that we can aim for these sustainable objectives in our planning. And then we go into the details and try to fine-tune even better, at least for the benefit of all participants. Is it the host city? Are these the athletes, the spectators, or ourselves as an organization? Or if I just come back to your business, also for the media, that they do not have to travel and lose time and just sit more in the bus than at the venue.
And this is actually a big thing, because first of all, a lot of previous sports events have been a lot of challenges of logistics, production, and even politics and geopolitics, but as well sustainability. So when you touch and for instance, in your website, and of course in some of the publications you've been focused on the sustainability, and you just mentioned the economically, socially, and the environment sustainability around building such an event like this. But one of the things that you highlight as well is the inclusiveness and unite and develop communities in and through sports, and as well provide global exposure, the unique experience for athletes and cities, and engage and inspire communities by the promotion of sports values. So could you elaborate on this? Because I think that's a I think that sometimes we think when it comes to sports, the community side of the sports, the unite and develop communities. And I always like to use the example of Nelson Mandela that unite partly South Africa using sports, and I think it was a country highly divided. So if you could elaborate on these values and vision and mission of the World Games, which I think are fantastic.
Yes, a pleasure to talk about this, because years ago our board looked into the opportunity how to bring together sport and para sports at the World Games. It is once again not so easy for our IFs, as you mentioned, the non-Olympic ones, to have funds in place also for disabled athletes in their sports. They did a lot of work, I would like to say once again, about the last 20 years, I would say 25 years, to improve that also for disabled athletes in their sports. And along with that, we also discussed how we can take care of these athletes at the World Games. And when it came to the discussion, we said, okay, if we talk about inclusiveness, then we talk really to have these athletes also included in the event of the World Games and not to build up a second event for them. And to manage that is then once again a challenge, looking into all numbers that you have to work on, because we want to have that also at a cost stage for the host cities that will not just put far more on them on the organizational side, but also on the IF side, because what they have to provide to the athletes to participate in the games. I would like to say we found a very good, and I wouldn't call it a compromise, a good solution on that, to integrate para-athletes by our IFs within their disciplines that are already on the program or which they apply to be on the program. So we ask them, if you have the opportunity to bring para-athletes to your event, what is the performance that you provide to us and how we can organize that together with the host city? Some IFs came back at an early stage and said, yes, we have already some good experience. This is what we can provide to you. Is that something we can discuss? Yes, we discussed that and we developed that and introduced that also to other member IFs. And so we have now more para disciplines on the program for the games in 25 than ever before. And we have also a strategy item of decided by our board that we look at least always as the minimum number of 200 athletes at the World Games in future. This is what I say, something that should be also understood as a demand to our IFs to take care of this and to develop that further with us. Can you see the contact file of Mr. Mandela?
Yes, we can see him. Yes.
Who you quoted? He is in my office because I had the pleasure once to go to South Africa and get that by him. And all I think what he said and what is sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in the way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. And this is, I think, one of the principles also of our organization. And it's not just by chance that it has a dedicated place in my office.
So it's really probably one of the most important things, especially as we go in a lot of different directions of the world economy, and the geopolitics never stopped. But this part. So continue on this, and I want to touch now that you mentioned about Nelson Mandela. So one of the things that is very special with the World Games, and I think you touched that, is, so I'll just quote part of this because it's coming from your website and other parts, is that in the inception of the World Games originated from the vision of the General Association of International Sport Federations, GAISF, recognizing the limited opportunities for non-Olympic sports to showcase themselves on a global platform. In early 1979, a steering group was formed to conceptualize and organize an international multi-sport event exclusively for these sports. And the inaugural event found this venue in Santa Clara, USA, with the first edition held in 1981. So I think if you could tell us a bit about the history of the World Games and a bit that kind of the differentiator from the beginning and your, I would say as well, heritage in terms of fostering innovation, sustainability, and as well putting together these communities for people that don't know so much, of course, about the World Games.
Yeah, 1981 was the start of the games, and 1971 the start for this organization. And at that time, it was just 16 international federations that came together, or leaders of these international federations came together because they were just in the position with their sports not to be considered as an Olympic sport, but they also wanted to have the opportunity of a multi-sports event. So they just discussed that opportunity as an association to host a multi-sports event, which they called at that time the World Games. That was the start. In 1981, it was just 16 of them that participated in Santa Barbara at the university campus over there. And it was, we have some pictures still at home and some quotes of that. And it was a very nice gathering, but it was more or less without spectators. And it was just more or less also only for the athletes, which was great. And we have quotes from there that really said, "Oh, great coming together with other athletes, and not only to stay in the bubble of our sport." So already at that time, athletes have had much fun on this event. But then later on, when it came to 85. In London, 89, it was hosted in Karlsruhe in Germany. And for the first time, really a city took care of that. That was one of the milestones within the development. And they made it as a really event in the city, also for the citizens. It was not only for the athletes themselves. They all already, what we also try to cater with nowadays in a let's say in a bigger way, is to include also the audience in activities. That happened in 1981 in Karlsruhe, and was one of the big learnings at this stage for the board. A major change took also place in the preparation of the games of 89. And I have to mention that because the previous president stepped back and he left it for his vice president, Mr. Ron Fröhlich, a US citizen who then stayed in that job from 1989 till 2013. And he was one of the driving forces for the IWGA, and to bring that over the Hague in 93 to 97 to Lahti, and further on 2001 to Akita. And all the way along, the games improved in a way that more sports, more member federations came into the program, and it was developed in the way that it was really also something to show to the audience, because the principles that I mentioned earlier were established on that way to have only top athletes in these events, and also to ask for the support of national sport organizations or also national Olympic committees to support these athletes in their participation. One of the also, I would like to say, stepping stones was Duisburg in 2005 for the IWGA for the first time. And I hope my communication department agrees with me, but I'm quite sure for the first time it was really also a very good coverage on TV. A huge success on site. People learned a lot about these games because they were hosted more or less with some sports in units that people could just go around and not only stay with one sport. So we tried to adjust at that time to make it possible for spectators on site really to learn more than one sport when you go to one place. A strategy that we still are fine-tuning, and of which we are convinced that it brings not only benefit to the sports, but also to the audience. In 2009, Taiwan, and in 2013, Cali were, I would like to say, games that really were under the focus of the audience. Taiwan at that time did not host any multi-sports event at all. It was the first one, and people really were keen to go there and to learn everything. It was amazing, and it was an amazing success. And Cali, I don't have to talk to you about any emotions about South Americans and looking good sports. I can only let you know we used an old bullfighting arena for dance sports at night, and 16,000 people were watching that under the stars, and with a magnificent performance of the athletes. And people talk about that still today in the World Dance Sport Federation. Only to give you another example, before we went back in 2017 to Wrocław, Poland, and they also did a great job to introduce non-Olympic sports in Europe, and this is also something special. I consider it is easier, a little bit easier in South America, or being not here in Europe with non-Olympic sports, to get the attention and also the excitement of the audience. Then we went to Birmingham, and yes, we were caught like all other organizers by COVID. It should have taken place in 21. We had to delay, postpone to 2022, and still at that time it was not easy for the athletes to travel to the US. We all have had restrictions at that time, but the host city did a tremendous job, and I think we had great games under very difficult circumstances. What we learned at that time, athletes haven't had the chance to participate in such games also for 2 or 3 years, and they were so excited themselves to find them back on stage and being cheered by the audience. Can I let you know, all these games were very unique, at least the ones that I can tell you that I participated, and they had all different flavors, and I would like to say fit perfectly to the World Games, because we have also such a variety of sports which have a different flavor.
It's really impressive, the history, and as well how it was so different, because of course the Olympic Games have a completely different history, but in the end of the day, you guys have been creating a very special, different trajectory that is actually unique for its diversity, for its inclusiveness, and as well for bringing and fostering a lot of innovation in sports, because a lot of these sports are amazing. I've been learning myself in some of these air sports and multiple sports that you have in martial arts, but as well, and I suggest for the audience, and we'll put, of course, links to all of this, to actually go and learn about this. There's a lot of videos, there's your YouTube channel, and a lot of media. So I want to touch especially about the next games, which I think probably will be one of the biggest ones. So if you could tell us about, so the next ones will be in China, as I mentioned, and you're going to be focusing as well I think it's going to be a very big one, because China, of course, is a massive population, but the city as well, where it's going to be hosting, Chengdu, is very special because it has a lot of focus on sustainability. And I think it's going to be very important to uniting the Western world with China in a lot of ways, and as well in a mega sports event that can actually constitute a great way of fostering communities and inclusiveness.
Yes, if I ask now a question, Chengdu, I think not many people will heard about Chengdu here in the Western world, but just to say, it's a small city in China, only the 4th biggest one, with 21 million citizens, and a size that even requires 2 international airports. So it is in a way a different caliber also for us looking into that. You just said a different level again. Chengdu is for us, or will be also, an experience, and the biggest challenge for us was also to discuss with them, not that they have the opportunity of venues for all the sports that we could bring in. They have it. That's for sure. That's not the question. But to build it also in a way that, and we talked about that already, how to make that a little bit sustainable. And for us, it was important that Chengdu is considered as the most sustainable city in China. We all can discuss the level of sustainability, but I would like to say, if you go there and you see how green Chengdu is, I would like to say even in my country, in Germany, we could learn a lot about this. Looking only in this, but also they're thinking about staying sustainable with that project was important for us. So we bring now for the first time 5,000 participants in. In your introduction, you named that we have 3,500 athletes. We have a little bit more now because we already discussed also the opportunity to have para-athletes included. We have also the opportunity that we hand over a certain number of athletes, teams or sports to the host city that they can propose to bring to the games. So we end up and we keep that cap number completely of 5,000, which is manageable not only in such a big city, but also in future host cities. We always have to consider that. And Chengdu is very pleased to host these games with at least we have 34 sports or disciplines that will be hosted in 25 in the 6 clusters that you mentioned also earlier. And I consider that the program that we take there once again shows very well-known sports to the Chinese or Asian audience, like, for example, Dragon Boat, Wushu, but that we also introduce sports there that they do not know at all. It's something like floorball that's very well known in the northern part of Europe, that we have what we talked about earlier, flying disc, for example, but also American football. Here with the discipline flag football will be on the program for the Chengdu Games. So talking about that, I would like to say we had to maximize our time over here, but I would also invite people to have a look on our website and to see the program over there, which is over the 11 days again. I think very exciting.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations. Yeah, go ahead.
I just missed one point. There was a side remark from you and from my side on that. But what is also important for us during the 11 days, we have a lot of action also for the citizens. We have a so-called World Games Plaza where people can meet. All cultures can come there together and just relax without sports. But we have close to that also a so-called sports garden, where the citizens or the supporters or visitors can just try the sports that are on the program by the help of the IAF, where also top athletes will go and show them tricks how to just make flying disc flying, for example. So there's a lot of interaction also that we have not only for the first time in Chengdu, but also at the previous games in place, that people are not only attracted by looking at a sport, but also by trying a sport.
No, that's very special, and I think it's important as well. Like you mentioned, the fact that you have a city that is extremely sustainable and as well quite big, because of course, in terms of scale, is massive as well. So, one of the things I want to touch, and this is very dear to me, and I'm going to make a bridge between what you guys are doing and as well some of my reflections. So, this channel and in this show, we've been talking always about how can we include the innovation and improve society with all the innovation that comes from special technologies, but at the same time, how we can actually foster sustainability and avoid a lot of dystopian narratives. So definitely the sports, like you mentioned, I love the quote you mentioned from Nelson Mandela, can unite, but at the same time, and this touches a bit more, I want your vision on this because you touched the sustainability, but as the physical and the digital merge more and more, especially with all the devices, we are here virtual talking with each other, the physical becomes more important. But at the same time, there's a lot of discussion around sports and well-being, but I think there's still a lot of lack of discussion around the sports economy or the sports well-being economy. And I want to touch this, especially you being, of course, a global expert and as well leading one of the biggest sports organizations in the world. So if you look at, and there's different studies, and this is a big question, but I would like to touch a bit because you touch indirectly, is the world economy is around $80 trillion, and the sports economy, if you put the sports and well-being economy, is around $5 trillion, $1 trillion for the sports economy at large. And when I mentioned this, is all the sports organizations, all the different parts. But there's a huge component on this, that is the sports economy or the well-being. And what I mentioned by this is a lot of people are living alive in working with these communities, fostering families. For instance, if I see my nephew playing sports in a small sports organization in Portugal, or if I look at my other part of the family playing some sports in the US or in Middle East. And these things are really sometimes we forget when we look at this, and especially as the sense of jobs like we had in the past of 9 to 5 are slowly disappearing, and we are much more working in kind of the gig economy. The sports economy becomes increasingly more important. So I would like to see how you look at this, because in the end of the day, you guys are probably fostering innovation on this in the sense that you put together sports modalities that were not official in any organization. Point one. Point two as well, like you mentioned, 5,000 people, entire cities and events with thousands of people listening to this. So there's an entire ecosystem of, but as well, there's these people, and I see from my cousin that is a Paralympic champion. She's a lawyer, but she's blind, and she goes to all these events, and she spends literally 2-3 hours per day performing and coaching. But then she travels around the world. There's trips that have to be paid. There's coaches that have to be managed. So that's an entire component. So from your experience as a coach, as a personality of sports, but as well managing the sports, how can we actually get this in a way that can actually improve society, and as well learn with your experience on these areas?
I think we really have to go to the very beginning, and this is that we have to get excitement for sports at all, and this for us is part of education. And you know that we have also an educational program in place that we bring to the host cities, introduce over there, not only to the host cities, that can also be taken by our member federations, and we always ask them really to have these grassroots programs in place to at least get the audience that you would like to see later on, or that you get the athletes that you need later on. So here you have to start with that, looking at that. This is something for me of major importance, and it is something that we really also we're keen to develop over the past years. And I think it will be also it came to huge interest also for Chengdu to look into that. But when it comes to the event and you look on the economical side on that, yes, you have to really seriously discuss figures that you try to organize and to bring that together. We can't avoid that athletes have to travel for a global event somewhere. Some are very close, some are far away. But if you want to have the top athletes, you have to bring them there. But you have to be careful, and therefore careful on the number. And therefore, the board decided that we have a capped number for our event. We don't go below that, because we know if we go beyond that, then costs suddenly explode, especially on the host city's side. And this is something we are very careful with. I don't bring the exact numbers up, but if you compare the cost of our event with other events, you may then afterwards ask yourself for which reason we are, let's say, very efficient working on the budget item in comparison to others. It's difficult to be in this position and to say, okay, come to touch that issue. But in all fairness, we have to touch it. And how to get to this point is something where we are really serious looking into the numbers that we bring to the event, but also in all other items that lead up to this event. So we have strict qualification events that we make use of, but in a number that can be handled by the international federations, because they are responsible for that. We do not ask for additional events, for example. We use already structures that once again are in place and try to adapt them for our event leading up to the World Games. And at the event itself, it is what I just let you know, that we You would be surprised if you look into the number of staff being really responsible to organize these games on the IWGA side, together with a number of partners, excellent partners that we have in place to provide their services for the benefit of the games, and once again to keep costs down for the host city, who mainly has the responsibility to finance these games. And if you show up with this concept also to sponsors, then I say, okay, yes, that seems to be reliable when I look into that, how you just spend our money for this event. You need good arguments. That is my learning at the desk when it comes to which partner ever you discuss, either organizational items, financial items, sport items, whatever. You have to make yourself very clear, understandable that at the end of the day, when you have to put everything together, there is that, I named it at the beginning, that fair play for me already in the organization. And that is especially also with spending money. So to be at least economical, successful also with these games.
So one of the things you mentioned is that you have a huge focus in making sure the games are sustainable from the principle of management, money, budget, and as well avoiding the risks. So I know that it's probably a very basic question, but I have to ask because, like you mentioned, a lot of sports events are becoming big elephants and they destroy sometimes economies. They can foster marketing and advertisement to become really. So what would be the guidelines that from your experience and as well wisdom that you would share with our audience that doing an event that is sustainable economically, financial and social?
Find good partners, listen to the experts, and if you are the one who has to decide, try to bring everything together from all areas for the best result. But definitely what I learned also during my career is if leaders do not listen to their experts. In my position, I always let my people know I work together with. I have to decide maybe at the end of the day before it comes to the board, for sure. But I'm not the one who is an expert in all fields. I have to listen carefully, and I have to listen in a way that I can bring things together and make even more efficiency out of that. So this is something where you can really spend or lose money from my experiences.
And that is very wise. And I think it's common sense, but the common sense that people forget when it comes to this. So, and I know that we pass a bit of time, so I want to be respectful of your time, but I still have 2-3 more questions and then we'll wrap up. But so in terms of the organization, so you have the IWGA and the World Games. So tell us a bit about the organization for people that don't know so much and how this organization works, because for instance, you have, and as I know as well that from the sports organization, and of course this channel is a bit talking as well about business. How does it works, the different organizations and some of differentiations between the World Games and for instance the Olympic Games or other global sports, multi-sports events?
Yeah, something as I already mentioned, we were founded in 1979, and since then we developed from 16 member federations to 39 currently. And we have new applications for this year's AGM. So obviously we are quite attractive for international sports federations. We are based in Lausanne in Switzerland, already for now more than 10 years. Before it was the headquarters in US, Colorado Springs. But Europe is more convenient also to stay in touch with most of the international federations who are also in the sports capital in Lausanne in Switzerland. We have a board of seven members, president and 6 members that are elected every 4 years by the 39 member federations. And this is something that I would like to say is very valuable for this organization, because there comes a lot of expertise from the presidents, secretary generals out of our member federations that we could gather not only for sport items. Along with that, in the headquarters, we have 6 people that managing more or less the daily jobs, but also the correspondence with the IS, with the host city, with the partners. And we have another 7 consultants that are working very closely with us. Coming then to service companies with which we have long-term agreements, and of which we use their expertise, for example, ISV, international sports broadcasting, for televising the World Games, for the production, and also for the media distribution, but as well as also a very well-known company. Am I allowed to use that name too here? Because we work together with them since 2005. It's Swiss Timing, a company very well known in the world of sports. They provide their service for results and also registration accreditation. And we have other companies going along with us, like Sword Venue. We have a great collaboration also with fixed chiropractors that serve with voluntary services at the games for the athletes. And these are, I would like to say, is the core construction of the World Games, which we provide to the host cities. I have to say, every 4 years, we take these partners along, and with taking them along with this continuity, we can also not only save budget on the one side, we bring expertise gained on previous games. And we don't have to explain to these partners, to these colleagues, to these consultants. They just can take a look on the host city and start very soon, very swiftly, a close collaboration, working relationship. I would like to say this is something you may know, be a little bit surprised about the numbers that I mentioned. We are far away from other organizations of this high number of staff or whatever, and that brings us also down once again in looking on budget items.
Yeah, and the numbers are really impressive. So thank you for that. So for instance, for people listening to us, and of course we'll put this in the communication around the YouTube and the different podcast distribution. So there's a 1,900 hours of content, over 100 million viewers for event, and 41 million hours of TV viewed, and 5 billion impressions, and 1,200 accredited media personalities. So this is quite impressive numbers, and congratulations. And I think most of the people don't know about this. So I want to touch for my last 2 questions. And so one of the things that is critical, like you mentioned, for the sports personalities is the digital presence. So because they need the digital presence to get sponsors, to get promotion, even to get people to understand that. And of course, social media is a key element of sports because people spend time on social media and digital. So how do you see this part of the digital component around the sports and increasing the kind of a lot of people are doing sports and putting immediately in social media, especially in the well-being? And of course, you have a lot of sports that have fantastic visual, so actually very viral at certain times. So how do you deal with this component of digital, and how do you see this going forward?
You're more than 100% correct on that. And even that you said we have had some impressive numbers on previous games. Definitely, we have to raise these numbers because our sports deserve that, and also the sponsors deserve that. We discussed after the recent games in Birmingham the strategy for improving our visibility and also attention for the World Games and also for our sports. And together with our long-term partner, ISB, we developed the concept now for the upcoming games, not only having our pictures available on unilateral devices, but also in the digital and especially also social media section. So this strategy will now take place, and we are currently working on that and also announcing that very soon. That gives not only the sports communities of our different sports the opportunity to share even better pictures, moments, comments, everything you can just distribute on social media together, but also for a broader audience when it comes to a new host city, to a new country, to whatever. And we also learned that, or we listen to experts, that there is a huge opportunity for us to use that digital media if we just have a chance to make it available, let's say 24/7. That is something, and on demand, and on every time you would like to go back or look into items that are brought by the World Games.
No, fantastic. And I think definitely I hope to promote as well, because it's definitely, you guys have amazing sports. And for people listening to us, it's just things like, especially the air sports are fantastic, the precision sports, the strength, but the trend sports in particular are very quite cutting edge. So talking about the trend sport, so at the moment, one of the things that is happening that has its positive and negative things is the eSports. So at the moment, there's a lot of events worldwide that actually people just gather to play sports on devices. So as you guys have been actually bringing trend sports, how do you see that? And of course, this opens a lot of possibilities, a lot of course, risks, but how do you see that, especially as a sports specialist that has been doing sports all your life?
Yeah, it's an interesting development, a very interesting development, and we carefully monitor that since several years, and trying to find a correct, no, not a correct way, that just cut it off, to find the best way for all sport interested people is something very difficult. But again, what I just mentioned a minute before, the new platform should also at least serve with one part of that, looking into eSports, eSports, and especially our sports that should be then be introduced over there. But in the meantime, as I just said, we look into that for a few years. We have that, I would say, bigger approach of these metaverse opportunities, which include then also, let's say, that you can use your avatar to use to try a sport. This is something we are approaching also together with IWGA, and try to develop something also with other partners for future. But you always, once again, it comes at the end of the day that you need the money for that, and this is a very cost expensive one. And there is still one disadvantage on the side of the IWGA. We are not that comparable, for example, to the IOC, that we just can say, okay, we spend 100 million on a project, and if it works or not, well, it doesn't matter. We take the next one. We have to be careful, and therefore that is something. Let me put it this way: it is in process, in a careful process, I would like to say, and it is, as always, we have to take along also our member federations. Without them, it doesn't work at the end of the day. And only if they are in the position that they not only can support us, but that they have also good feeling to support themselves at the end of the day, we move forward in a speed that, let's say, is allowed also by the other, by finances and organizational items and so on.
No, it is a very good point, and I believe that is the way to do it, because definitely this will be just continuing adding on. And there's a lot of, for instance, right now, thousands of millions of people doing sports using VR in particular. There's a lot of iterations between the sports personalities being in immersive experience. But well, that's I love the way you approach it, because it has to be approached. But I think right now it's probably putting together, because the society is putting, and there's some things that are cheaper now. Definitely. So
the time will come, definitely. The question is, what's the correct timing
for doing it? Yes. Well, definitely, I think there's a separate one that we have to do, because I am quite excited about it. So and to wrap up, because we've been here for 1 hour and a half, so I'm very grateful for your time. It's been an honor. So last thing, I think, for our audience and for people all over the world that know less about the World Games, so tell us where people can find information. What you would like for people to participate, to go to the next events, to engage and different things? That's my last question.
Yeah, as always, you can go and use our website for all general information, but we are also on the different social media present. And whenever there is a question, just send an email to our office. We are quite fast on responding, and we have a good communication team in place. We are also present in China with one of our staff because we know that there are still a challenge to have the Western world and Chinese world in social media present, but we do our best also to have that harmonized and to be available for all audience. Whatever question you will have, just give it to us and we try to answer as good as possible.
Thank you, Joachim. So for people listening to us, it's been an honor, Joachim, and congratulations for all the fantastic work on sustainability, putting together one of the biggest events of sports in the planet. And as well, so people can go to the worldgames.org, and we'll put all the links here for all the social media and all the different parts for people to engage. Thank you so much, Joachim. It's been an honor.